Hello, my friends. Someone who truly loves green living and also the creator of this channel, Compost. Today, I'd like to sit down with you and have a sincere conversation about the mistakes most of us, especially beginners, often make when starting to compost. You see, composting isn't just about dealing with kitchen scraps. It's really a journey of reconnecting with the soil, with nature, and with the sustainable lifestyle we're all searching for. And like every journey, there are missteps, there are mistakes. But if we understand them and learn to avoid them, the path will feel much lighter and far more meaningful. So today, I'll share with you the 6 biggest mistakes I myself have made and that I've seen countless others run into. Maybe you'll see yourself in one of these stories. And who knows, you might even laugh and think, I did that too. Number 1, using the wrong materials. Have you ever thought that any kitchen waste can just go into your compost pile? I once believed that too. I remember tossing in orange peels full of essential oils, even onion skins and garlic. The result? A sharp, pungent smell that lingered for weeks, and it took me forever to bring that pile back into balance. Choosing the right materials is the foundation of successful compost. Things like vegetable scraps, fruit peels, coffee grounds, dried leaves, grass clippings. These are wonderful. But when you start adding bones, fatty leftovers, or citrus peels in large amounts, your compost turns into a smelly, hot pot that attracts pests. I once watched a friend throw in leftovers from a party, meat, bones, oil, and within days, rats showed up. Does that sound familiar? Sometimes we're in such a rush to get rid of trash that we forget composting requires intention and selection. Using the right materials doesn't just give us good fertilizer, it's also a way of respecting the earth and respecting our own effort. Science tells us that when carbon-rich and nitrogen-rich materials are combined properly, microbes thrive. But with the wrong inputs, they suffocate or simply vanish. So remember, choose wisely at the start, and your reward at the end will be worth it. Number 2, not balancing greens and browns. Imagine a meal where you only had meat but no vegetables, or only vegetables with no protein at all. Your body would feel off balance, wouldn't it? Composting is the same. Greens are moist, nitrogen-rich materials like vegetable scraps, coffee grounds, or fresh grass clippings. Browns are dry, carbon-rich materials like dry leaves, sawdust, or shredded paper. Too much green and your pile turns slimy and stinky. Too much brown and it just sits there, barely breaking down. I've seen neighbors throw all their vegetable waste into a corner of the yard with nothing else. After a month, instead of compost, they had a smelly swamp buzzing with flies. On the other hand, a friend of mine piled only dry leaves, and after 6 months, it still looked the same as day 1. Have you ever run into that? The science is simple. Microbes need both carbon and nitrogen to eat and to live. A good rule of thumb is 3 parts brown to 1 part green. When it's balanced, you'll even notice a gentle warmth coming from the pile, a wonderful sign that life is thriving inside. Composting is really a lesson in balance, just like life itself. When we find the right balance, everything feels lighter, smoother, and the results are deeply rewarding. Number 3, not adding enough water. One day I opened my compost bin and found it dry as a desert. I had completely forgotten that microbes, just like us, need water to survive. A dry compost pile is like barren land. Life simply can't flourish there. Think about it. If you left your garden vegetables out in the sun for a week without water, they'd wilt. Compost is no different. The ideal moisture level should feel like a damp sponge or a wrung-out towel. Moist to the touch, but not dripping. Many beginners worry about too much water, so they leave their piles bone dry. The result? Decomposition slows to a crawl. But if you overwater, you'll end up with a swampy, smelly mess. I've made both mistakes myself, and it took weeks to fix them. Here's a little trick I use. Grab a handful of compost and squeeze it. If it feels damp and crumbly without dripping, it's perfect. Paying attention to this tiny detail has actually taught me patience in life. to observe, to care, and to nurture consistently. Number 4, not turning the pile. Have you ever left a pot of soup sitting too long without stirring? The ingredients float apart and the taste becomes off. Composting is just like that. If you never turn the pile, oxygen can't reach the inside. Anaerobic bacteria take over, and the smell, well, you don't want to know. I'll confess, out of laziness, I once left my compost untouched for an entire month. When I finally opened it, a sour stench hit me in the face. It took weeks of regular turning before it came back to life. Turning the pile isn't just mixing. It's about giving oxygen to the microbes, like opening windows to let fresh air into a stuffy house. Once a week, grab a shovel and move the outer layers into the center and vice versa. You'll notice the pile heating up, a great sign that microbes are hard at work. A farmer friend of mine once said, "Turning compost is like tilling the soil. The earth needs to breathe if you want it to feed your plants." And he was absolutely right. Compost teaches us that life always needs circulation and movement. Nothing can thrive if it's sealed away and forgotten. Number 5, throwing in greasy leftovers. I once got a message from a viewer. "Mr. On, why is my compost full of flies and such a terrible smell?" After asking a few questions, I learned she had been tossing in fried fish, greasy meat, and even old soup. This is one of the most common mistakes. Oily, greasy foods, dairy, or bones simply don't belong in home composting. They break down slowly, attract harmful bacteria, flies, even rodents. I once saw a compost bin loaded with grease. Within days, it became a playground for ants and rats. Maybe you're thinking, but isn't it wasteful to throw that away? I understand. But remember, composting is about feeding the soil, not just dumping waste. If something doesn't belong, set it aside. Focus on vegetables, fruit peels, coffee grounds, dry leaves, grass, the foods soil truly craves. There are industrial composting systems with high heat that can handle grease and bones. But for a simple household system, less is more. And keeping it simple is what makes composting a habit you can actually stick with. Number 6, not covering the compost properly. Have you ever opened your compost after a big rain and found a soggy, slimy mess? Or maybe you left it uncovered, and the next morning cats, rats, or chickens had scattered it everywhere? Yes, I've been there too. Covering your compost may sound minor, but the consequences are big. Compost needs protection, like a small garden. Too much rain washes nutrients away. Too much sun dries it out. Animals digging around destroy the structure. I usually use a lid or tarp, just enough to block rain and sun, but still allow airflow. If you compost outdoors, choose a shaded, dry spot. Once, I forgot to cover my pile during the rainy season, and overnight it turned into a muddy pond. It took months to restore. Think of covering your compost like caring for the roof of your home. It doesn't need to be fancy, but it does need attention. And when your compost is properly protected, it quietly transforms until one day you open it and find rich, dark, earthy soil, smelling like a forest floor. That's the greatest reward for your patience. You see, composting isn't just about kitchen waste. It's really a lesson in choices, in balance, in care, in patience, and above all, in respecting nature. These 6 mistakes I've shared today, I believe almost everyone has made them at least once. But it's through mistakes that we learn to walk more steadily, more gently. If you're on this journey, I want to say this. Be patient, love the soil, and start small. One day, you'll feel the joy of spreading compost you made with your own hands onto your garden. And from there, planting seeds of green not just for your family, but for the world. Your trash just became garden treasure. Thanks for watching. Subscribe now and you'll join me every week for more composting and zero-waste living ideas.